And that ends our last countdown for the day and kicks off our last session for the day. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our 10th anniversary celebration of TCCA, the Technology and Curriculum Conference of Aldine. We are so excited to recognize attendees from all over the world who have registered to be with us today for TCCA. My name is Bill Drake. I'll be hosting this session along with my co-host, Patsy Matheny. Before I introduce your presenter, I want to go over a few items with you. The title of this session is Getting Started in Google Classroom, and it will end promptly at 3:50 so that we can get things wrapped up for the day. If you have questions during the presentation, please enter them in the chat on the right side of your screen. Towards the end of the session, I'll give the presenters a 10-minute warning to give them time to wrap up and answer any questions that you have. And with that, it's my pleasure to introduce to you your presenter, Michelle Wooten, who joins us from Cy-Fair ISD. Michelle, and also, Kevin Bussey, who is co-presenting with her. Kevin, it's good to have you with us too. Michelle, Kevin, the room is yours.
Well, it's great to be here. It's kind of exciting to do this virtually. It's a new thing, I think, for everybody. And we'll just see how it goes. I'm going to share my screen. Let's see how that works. And let's go back to the very beginning. All right. I cannot see what's happening at this point. So Kevin, can you see the screen?
Okay. Michelle, when you click share your screen at the bottom,
yes,
window that pops up, click on the picture of your screen and then click share.
All right. I thought I did that. I might have clicked cancel, but let's try it again. Share. There. Now it says it's sharing.
You're good. We have your screen.
All right. So this is Google Classroom for Beginners. And down here at the bottom, there's a bit.ly to share the presentation if later you would like to visit it again. I'm Michelle Wooten. I have here my email address for you if you cared for it, my Twitter handle, my school website, and Spotify podcast that I do that's called Quantum Experiences. And they're really short podcasts. They're about 5 minutes long each. Inspiration for teachers on their way to work. Something positive to think about as you go in. I've been in education for 38 years now. And so this is brand new territory for me as well as for all of the rest of you who are teaching. Kevin.
My name is Kevin Bussey. I've been in education for going on 14 years now. Just diving into Google, learning new things, and figuring out what works best for the classroom.
All right. So if you would please, for a minute, go to a new tab, menti.com, enter the QR code, or scan the QR code. The code for the menti.com is 4545537, and answer those 3 questions. We should be able to see what people know and think about Google Classroom. So if you've never used Mentimeter, or if you've heard about it and were wondering, Mentimeter is a way to engage participants, engage students in a discussion when maybe they can't be discussing, when maybe they have no vocal voice and we have to do this digitally. We have a slider of how people feel about Google Classroom. Down here in the lower right, it tells you how many people have participated, and so far it has been 4. people who have participated in this particular menti.com. Mentimeter.com is where you can set this up. Menti.com is where you actually go to participate. And so we can see that on a scale of 1 to 3, what we know about Google Classroom, about how many of these 7 people so far have used Google Classroom, and who is excited to learn a little bit more about Google Classroom. I work in Cy-Fair ISD, and we were a Google Classroom district up until this year, and we've switched to Schoology. But Google Classroom is still my favorite platform to use. I find it very user-friendly, both for students and for teachers. And I also like the way it allows me to integrate all kinds of information very easily into a learning situation. So going back, we'll come back to that a little later toward the end of the presentation. But hey, Kevin, you want to tell us why we should use Google Classroom?
Google Classroom is a one-stop shop, in my opinion. It allows you to, one, stay very organized, make sure that the students know exactly where everything is at, and they get to know exactly how you want, because it lets you put in directions on what they want to use. I personally love using it because I number all my assignments. So starting from 1 all the way up to 1,000, depending on how many assignments I put in there, whether they're quizzes, tests, or daily assignment. That way I can easily tell the students, go to number 12 and do that one assignment. They get real-time information back. The students and teachers both can collaborate together on it at the same time. It's a wonderful tool to have.
It's really nice because you don't have to necessarily repeat instructions. Even if your assignment isn't going to be digital, but students know every day to go to Google Classroom, your instructions for the day, your objective, your learning outcomes, all of that can be posted in Google Classroom, so kids have easy access to it. And it kind of cures that, hey, miss, I didn't hear, can you repeat that? It's in the classroom. I like it because it allows for students to easily collaborate, not just with me, but with each other. And it's a great place for absent students to find assignments that they've missed, especially when they're numbered. What I want to stress is it's really not a site for digital worksheets. We hand out worksheets all the time when we're not in COVID mode. Creating digital worksheets and having kids do 30 problems or write 30 sentences or do something over and over again to prove learning is not what Google Classroom's about. It's really about students and teachers collaborating, learning from each other, growing knowledge, growing skills, and doing it on an ongoing basis, and collaborating and using feedback to learn instead of using feedback to shut down learning, as in, here's your grade, we're done. Oh, by the way, you have 30 more problems tomorrow.
And it's really self-paced for the students as well. So you can give them their assignments, and unless you put a timer on it, it's really self-paced for them, which gives them a time to grasp hold of different concepts.
It works really well with blended learning. If Google Classroom ends up being a station in your blended learning situation, after you've taught a mini lesson, they can go into Google Classroom. They can also have something they're doing before that mini lesson that's in Google Classroom. So right now, what I'd like everyone to do is open up a new tab, go to classroom.google.com, click the plus sign right here, and create a class. When you click create class, there will be blanks to fill in. Fill in some of those blanks, click create, and let us know in the chat if that was hard, if that was easy, if you already knew how to do that. sometimes I've assumed people know how to even get into Classroom, and they may or may not, or what that plus sign is, or how to actually go about creating. So we're just going to create a first class for now. That doesn't work. And when you've done that, could you please put that in the chat for us to see?
Let me check the chat.
And Mr. Drake, I can't see the chat, so you'll have to let me know what's going on, if that's possible.
I'm gonna pull
You're
the chat
not
up and see what
you're not able to see the chat in your feed, huh?
Well, if I go to StreamYard, I'm going to do that
Yeah,
right now.
you'll have to go back to StreamYard to see that. But we are monitoring the chat.
All right. And when I go here, what I see is that infinite screen. So I'm going to go back to Google to the slideshow. So have you all created your
Jennifer
own?
From Paris.
Yes.
Can you hear me, Michelle?
Yes.
Jennifer from Paris says bonjour, first of all. But
bonjour.
Yes, you can link your Google Classroom with your Schoology. You just have to paste the link into an application in Schoology so that they can access it.
One of the things I'd like for you guys to notice while we're on this slide right here is when you are in Google Classroom, you can click on a section that shows you what's to do, what students have coming up to do.
Hey,
The to
Michelle,
review. Yes.
I apologize for cutting in. We're getting a lot of background noise. It sounds like it may be keyboard noise. Are either of you doing some typing?
No, not at all.
Okay. No, it's clear now.
All right, I'm checking my table, but I was hearing that as well, like tick, 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 tick. And I don't hear it anymore. Hello?
No, neither do I. So I think
okay.
we're good.
All right, I hope that's better. The section that says to review are assignments that students have turned in so that they can be reviewed by you, the teacher. And then calendar, anything that you put in with a due date automatically populates in a Google Calendar so that you can go to the calendar and see, as can students, go in and see what's coming up, when the next assignment that's been assigned is coming up, what they have left to do if they have not turned everything in. But that's how easy it is to create a class in Google Classroom. Once you're in the class, there's a banner that runs across the top of the page. Hey, Kevin, you want to talk about that banner?
There we go. I had to unmute myself. The banner at the top. The banner is basically so you can quickly identify which class, if you have multiple classes, which class you have, so you can easily get to it. And it also helps the students know which class is theirs for you.
And once you're in the class, Kevin, when can you see the slide we're on?
They're constantly changing up. I need to look at it again. But the banner is basically, it has the different tabs at the top of it so that you can see what you have as far as the stream, the classwork, the people within the class, as well as your grades. Some districts don't allow the grades don't allow access to the grades. Some districts do. So it depends on which one you have capable for that. Then the teachers, if you have a co-teacher or you're sharing the class with another teacher, you all can see that. That does help out for if you're going to be out. You have another teacher in there. They have access. They can get into the classroom to present the work to the kids so that the kids don't lose any educational time. the stream is like the homepage of the Google Classroom itself. It's where everything is listed, and it goes in order as to how you put it in there. So, and the classwork is basically you can set it up with different topics or units and arrange it that way so you can keep the kids on track and organized.
So if I go into a classroom that I've set up, Classroom for Beginners, and I click here, this is our main menu, and it shows all of the classes that you might be enrolled in or you might have as your classes. And as you can see, I have tons of classes in Google Classroom. Those three lines also give you access to your calendar and to your review for reviewing work. The title of the class that you're in is right here. So a student who's in one of your classes knows automatically where they are, even if they are out of the stream, that title for the class still stays there. The stream, like Kevin said, is that place where it's your home page. It's where the classroom comes up in the very beginning. Class at Work is where you organize.
My mic keeps going out, Michelle. Sorry about that.
Oh, that's all right. People who are involved in your class. And grades, unfortunately, if you don't have students, you cannot set up yet.
And then the good thing about it is you can invite the parents so they can actually see it. So you can be very transparent as to what your classroom is, what's going on within your classroom. The parents can see what their child is doing. So if you have questions or if they have questions, they can automatically just go in there and look and help the child stay caught up or ahead of the work.
Also helps avoid those kids who like to tell their parents, oh, we don't have any homework tonight, or that teacher didn't give me any work. When parents are involved in our classrooms and they know what's going on. Having that co-teacher, like Kevin said, is really nice as well, because someone else will always have access that way to what's going on in your classroom in case you are ever out. The gear is your settings, and it would not link to settings, so I'll go through here. Settings gives us our class details. It lets us set our codes for either inviting students, a class link, a code that kids can be given. So they go to Google Classroom, they click the plus like you did to create the class, and then they put in that code. And you might go, oh, that's really small, but you can display it and not have to worry about you copying it correctly.
And you can also reset that code.
Yes, so that it's more user-friendly. One of the things that Google has done, I believe they don't use capital O's anymore, so that you can't, a 0, an O, a 0, an O. I think they're using lowercase O's now, so it's more obvious what it is. In the stream, you can choose whether students can post things and make comments, whether they can only comment, or whether teachers only can post and comment. If you want to use the stream as a place for discussion, then you want students to be able to comment. If you want to give students real ownership in your class, real ownership of learning, then you're going to allow them to post and comment. It means we as teachers have to give up some of that control, right? When we allow students to take control of their own learning. But when students are allowed to post things and comment, and other students can comment on their posts, then students end up teaching each other. Classwork on the stream is really important. I end up hiding notifications because when you post classwork, if you don't hide classwork notifications, they will show up on your stream. And then it can get a little messy. It can get a little convoluted. And so when when you hide those classwork on the stream notifications, then the only thing that shows up on the stream are things that you insert or you put on the stream. You can show everything. You can show condensed notifications, just assignment names, or hide. And I like to hide notifications. It makes it easier for students. They know then that they have to go to classwork for assignments and they go to the stream for announcements. You can send guardians summaries. Showing deleted items. If you deleted an assignment and you only want teachers to view those assignments, then you leave them, that this would stay off. And finally, there is a way to grade and show grades in Google Classroom as well. Default is no overall grade. You can grade by total points or weighting by category. And if you have categories weighted in your school system, then you can mirror those weighted categories in Google Classroom, and so have an idea before you put things in your gradebook of where students are. And it's really easy. I've set this up. I can do classwork at 30. I can do assessments at 30. I can do tests at 40. And now that's saved. And when students do those assignments and I go in and grade them, it goes into Google's gradebook with those weights. So that's the gear. Kevin talked already to us a little bit about the code and resetting a code so we have user-friendly codes, inviting people by email, parents, and collaborating with teachers. When you have teachers as collaborators with you in your Google Classroom, the teacher who creates the classroom is the one who has ultimate say in whether that classroom stays or gets deleted. But the content in that classroom, any teacher can access, any teacher can create, and any teacher can delete. So remember that when you are part of a classroom that you did not create, you can't delete that classroom. You can leave it, and you can delete material. So be very careful if you're part of someone else's classroom that you don't delete things that someone else has spent some time creating. And now it's your turn to create. Go back for a few minutes. We'll give you about 3 minutes into that Google Classroom that you created. And invite a coworker to your classroom to be a collaborator. Invite a student if you know a student's invitation link. And get, pardon me?
About that, if they're inside there, they can invite one of us into it.
Invite one of us. Go into the gear and see if you can change some of those settings. Let us know how that went or if you have any questions about it. And we'll give you about 3 minutes. Kevin, what's the best thing for you about using Google Classroom?
The best thing for me with Google Classroom is the fact that it has all my work saved for me, and it integrates with all the Google platforms. So Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Sheets, everything is there, and I don't have to leave that browser to access it. Everything is right there, which helps out a lot. And plus all that auto save, because I have forgotten to save something on numerous occasions.
I like your idea about numbering assignments. And I think I put that on the slide. When you number assignments, students know, oh, I did number 1, I did number 2, I did number 4, I must need to go back and do number 3. It makes them easier to find as well. They're in order, so you can tell a parent number 3 as opposed to, oh, it's the assignment on World War I, and now
Yeah, so they might not,
parents and kids have to go through each assignment and look for the name as opposed to just the number.
and they might not know the name of it or not how to spell the name of it, and that might confuse them. But as long as you got a number, it's pretty much a winner for you.
Take about 1 more minute on that creation or that exploration of the gear and people. Comments or questions about how that went? I am the type of learner for tech that I like to get my hands into the tech and start to play with it. That's how I learn. That's how I make sense of what's going on. And so this virtual situation is a little different. We didn't know how many would be here, so couldn't put you in a Google Classroom. Google Classroom does have a limited number of students that can be put in. But I did want you all to be able to create a classroom and get that experience of putting things into a classroom, seeing how it gets organized, seeing how it gets set up. And so I'm relying on, Kevin and I are both relying on your input, your feedback as we move along to see how this goes.
We had a statement brought up in the chat about, is there a reason to have Google Classroom and Schoology? Use both of them.
So I, for example, have, I'm trying to get back to something. There it is. I have a class of Spanish 1 and 2 together at the same time at a special campus for emotionally disturbed students. For whatever reason, I only have Schoology for Spanish 1. My Spanish 2 student has been put in that, but he can't always access the assignments in there. And so he's accessing his assignments via Google Classroom, and he's familiar with that from last year. Sometimes I think Google Classroom and Google Documents, Google Slides mesh a little better than Schoology. If you're a Schoology district like we are, and you're being told to use Schoology, then Schoology is it, right? When we put in the request to do this presentation, we were not in the middle of COVID. Texas had not given every school district access to Schoology. We were still using Google and using it really well. So at some point, it may be a preference of, do you like Schoology better or do you like Google Classroom better? I hope that answered that question. All right, let's look at the stream. The stream is that home page in Google Classroom. And once again, you still see these 3 marks, these 3 bars, the hamburger. You still see the name of the class in the front. You still see the banner all the way across. This M lets me know which of my Google accounts I'm in. You can customize the banner right here. You can select a theme. You can upload a photo. It gives you the class code right here. And once again, if you were projecting this on a screen, on a big screen, if you click this, which is not clickable on this photo, by the way, if you click this, that code becomes really big. So students could enter the code if they were not already part of your Google Classroom. But it's in the stream that you can create your announcements, that you can create discussion assignments. It also is in the stream that you can see what's upcoming. Not just you as the teacher, but your students as well can see all the upcoming work. If I go back into here, the way you create something is you click share. And here are some really cool things that you can do in Google Classroom. You can share with whichever classes you want. If you have 6 classes that you teach, and they're all the same, but you've kept them separate because of all the students, and you want to put the same announcement in every class, you do not have to type it 7 times or 6 times. You can type it once and share it with those classes that you want to share it with. If you have information that's student specific, like grades or missing work, or just a personal note that you want a good job, you did this really, really well, you can make your stream post specific to a single student or to a group of students. Maybe they are working in groups and you've got 5 students in each group and you want each group to have their own different announcement, then you can do that as well. And the only people that will see it are the ones that you post to. When you post in the stream, you can pull up information from Google Drive. You can add a link from the internet. You can add a file from your computer, or you can upload a YouTube video as well. On this stream post, you can also, I better put something. I try to make posts in my stream a little like a hook, so that they want to open or want to go to what's next. I could add something from my messy Google Drive. And insert that. Once you have something in your announcement on the stream, you see the blue post light up. You can post it right now. You can schedule it for a later time, or you can save it as a draft. This is really, really nice. If you are lesson planning and you're using Google Classroom, you can put your assignments in there and you can schedule them to come up, and it won't be seen until that scheduled time. You can also start on something and go, oh, I'm not quite ready to post this. I want to find another article. I want to find a really cool video. I want to make a video and add it. And you can save it as a draft and come back to that later. But I'm going to go ahead and post this. And it shows up. Look at what we're doing today. The Google Sheet is there for a click. And then because I've enabled comments, kids can start to comment on this. I could have added, I could add something. I can go to edit, delete, or copy the link. I'm going to go to edit and say, open the sheet and comment on the website you like the best. And now, instead of having however many students turning in an assignment, I have comments to read. And isn't it easier to go through and look at several comments in a row than it is to click and look at an assignment and close it, and click and open an assignment and close it, and click and open an assignment and close it? When you make an announcement in stream that you want some feedback on, all that feedback will show up in the stream as well. Kevin, what do you have to say about the stream? Have you ever used it? And how do you use it in your classroom, or how did you use it? Oh, Kevin, are you still there? Ha, there you are.
Yeah, I'm here.
How
I
did
have
you
my
use
phone
the
on mute
stream?
when I'm not talking. I did the stream. The stream is to use. I use it to give the kids announcement about upcoming tests or quizzes. If I need to individually assign something to a student, I can do it right there. I love that feature. So if they need to do some differentiation, we're good to go.
Yeah, I used Google Classroom this summer when I taught summer school, and I had students asking for grades or asking for missing work. And the easiest thing for me to do, as opposed to individually texting or individually emailing, I would go into Google Classroom. I would click on the individual student and I would type them a note saying, here's your grade, these are your missing assignments, this is what you need to do to bring your grade up. They were really appreciative of that and often sent me back, thanks, miss. All right, or I thought I turned that in. And when they thought they turned it in, now we can have a discussion about what they did, what they didn't do. It was a nice way to communicate with students without having to continuously go to a new document, a new page, a new email, a new something. It was all on one page. So now it's your turn. Once again, I'm not a sit and get kind of learner. I'm hoping you aren't either. In the Google Classroom that you have created, go to the stream and create something in the stream. What stream, not the screen, the stream, whether it's an announcement for an upcoming event. Maybe you want to add a YouTube video. Maybe you have a file online that you want to add to a picture or something that you want your students to look at. Go ahead and create an announcement in the stream, and then you can either, again, you may choose to post it now, to schedule it, or to save it as a draft. And let's come back in 2 minutes and let us know how that went. It's hard because I want to give you guys time to practice with this, to play with it, to do something and see if it works for you, if it was difficult, if you have a question. And then there's all that dead space, that dead air.
The dead air is always a tense moment. So they're wrapping that up.
All right.
We're almost done with time also, Michelle.
Okie doke. And we are almost done with the presentation, actually.
Awesome.
Was that easy? All of you who are working in your classroom, the stream is easy to work with, right? It's just a couple of clicks, put in what you want, and post. Classwork. This is like the heart of Google Classroom, is where are you putting your classwork? And it is under that classwork tab. Google constantly revamps, revises, rebuilds their products, and that has happened with Google Classroom over the last several years. It used to have a tab called About. That tab is now gone. And so the nice thing about was it was a place to put things that you wanted your kids to have access to all the time. Within classwork, I've created a unit called resources. So one of the nice things that you can do in Google Classroom is create resources for your students. A unit, a section where you input things that they can have easy access to, that you know that they need to have. For example, yes.
Shell, Kevin, just a heads up, this is your 10-minute warning.
All right, thank you. I teach math and I teach Spanish. So in my Spanish class, in my resources tab, I had things like Duolingo link, Memrise link, Drops link. In math, I had a link to IXL.com and Khan Academy and Virtual Nerd, places where kids could go to find more information to help them with the classwork. Then within each unit,
And I would put formula charts in mine.
you would, talk about formula charts.
I would put the formula charts or just different things we've gone over. Instead of making the posters to hang around the classroom, once we make them in the class, I would take a picture of them and then load them to the resources so they'll have them there digitally for those who can't be in the classroom.
Easy access for when kids are at home. Then when work is,
for them.
Yep. And then when work is arranged by unit, it's easy to find the unit. And then within each new unit, when we number our assignments, it makes it even easier to find. Assignments can be a regular assignment, a CAMI assignment, a quiz, a question, some kind of material that would be like in resources. And you can even reuse your posts for other classes. Once again, if you are teaching several sections of the same class, creating it in one Google Classroom and then reusing it in others is really easy. Here's where you can create topics. And then let's go in here and find out how that works. So here is that page in my Classroom for Beginners. You can see the Google Calendar is here, your class drive folder. Oh, anything you create in Google Classroom or anything you add as an assignment in Google Classroom, when students turn it in, gets automatically placed in this class drive folder. You don't have to search for it. You don't have to go, where is Tommy's work? Because it's all in this Classroom for Beginners, which is this class folder. And here I even started a quiz. I have the topics on the side and I can create. When you create an assignment, title, instructions, if you wanted to create a Google document or a slideshow, you now have that opportunity to create it from within the classroom. You no longer have to create it outside and import it. If it's not already done, you can create it while you're there. If it's already done, you can add it from Google Drive, an outside link, a file on your computer, or a YouTube video, just like on the stream. If you notice on the right, you can add it to multiple classes. You can assign it to specific students. So when we talk about differentiation, you can have assignments that you assign to certain groups and nobody's going to know. You can add a category. Remember earlier I set up those 3 categories. I can set this up as part of one of those categories. And then the points. Due dates, when you put a due date, it automatically puts it in the calendar. When you add a topic from the beginning, then it will automatically put that assignment into that topic. If you want to create a rubric, you can create a rubric here. You don't have to go outside and create it. And if it's a writing assignment, you can check for plagiarism within Google Classroom.
It's that one-stop shop that saves you a lot of time not having to move to different spots.
The rubric is new. I have used it and it's really nice. It took me a while because I'm not a rubric user to begin with. But once I figured out how to set it up, it was something that I realized I could use quite easily with kids on projects, especially. And like I said, if I want to use Google Classroom like I believe it was intended, which is not as a worksheet depository, but as a place to collaborate and think with kids and have kids collaborate and think with each other, then this rubric becomes really important because kids can actually choose what kind of grade they want. We all have those days when we don't want to do as much work. So if we have a rubric in front of us, if our students have a rubric in front of us that says, oh, this is what I need to do to get a B, this is what I need to do to get an A, this is what I need to do to get a C. Oh, I can push that C. I can do a little bit more. I think it helps motivate kids when they see that in front of them and know what they can and cannot do. We'll get out of assignments. What about grading work? So because I don't have any work in there, it's a little difficult, but let me show you a class where I do have some work. So this is my Spanish class that I spoke about a little while ago. And here it says to review. So when you want to grade work and you click on to review, you can actually choose the classes you want to review work for. So I want to review this class, and I can see at the moment that this particular student has lots of work assigned, 2 things that I've graded, not much turned in yet. When you click on a piece of work, you can see what was attached to that assignment. You can go in and look at the instructions and what was in there. Students can actually make comments on their assignments as well. When you grade work, you can also leave comments for students, private comments. And so instead of grading, if you comment on it, then students can, and return it, students can look at that comment, respond to it, maybe make the appropriate adjustments to their work, and resubmit it so that they can get more feedback from teachers. And that's where that ongoing conversation between student and teacher comes in. All right, go back to that Mentimeter. It's the same code. And this time, we're going to do this slide. How do you feel about using Google Classroom now? I'm really hoping that came up. The code is, go to menti.com and the code is 4545537. And I think we've got about 2 minutes. Let's see how we feel about using Google Classroom.
Michelle, while you're waiting for that to come in, there's a question that maybe you can address.
Yes.
I dropped a quick response in the chat, but you may want to go in a little more detail. The question is there a reason to have both Google Classroom and Schoology?
So probably not a reason to use both of them. I know that Sci-Fair has moved to Schoology for this year, as have many districts in Texas, after being Google Classroom districts for a long time. I have one Google Classroom that I'm using because that particular student can't access Schoology on a regular basis. So rather than have him being frustrated all the time at that, in that lack of capacity to interact with me in Schoology, we set up Google Classroom, and he's a whole lot more confident with that. They do about the same kind of thing. If you have the choice, then it becomes preference. You know, what are you more comfortable with using? I hope that answered the question.
Yeah, I think so. They're competitors. It's
Yeah, I know. But when Kevin and I decided to put in for this presentation, it was pre-COVID, and our district was a Google Classroom district.
I'm sorry to do this, but we need to cut this session at this time.
Oh, I know.
So, Michelle and Kevin, want to thank you for your time and your preparation and for sharing your experience with us this afternoon and being a part of TCCA. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having us.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Attendees, the password to claim your certificate for this session is success with a capital S. Success. That's what you'll need to get your certificate. We want to thank you guys for joining us this year for our 10th anniversary of TCCA. I hope you enjoyed your Saturday. I'm going to end the feed at this time.